Kathryn here with Handmade by Circle Art Designs. Well, today on the mat, let's make a teardrop earrings and a 3-tier cuff bracelet. Aren't these lovely? I just love these pieces. And the beauty of these pieces is they are things that were already in my stash. And it gives me just a slightly different perspective on using the beads that I have. Because one of the tricks I have used this year is that as I finish up with beads, I have these little sacks and I put like things or color palettes that I like in the little zip bags to make something new with. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. So let's turn our eyes to our work table. So as I see my thankful and blessed mat here, I just love that. I am truly thankful and blessed for all of you. I want to say that first. And thank you so much for those who inquired about that poor little dove. And did you know I found out that it's not unusual for ringneck doves to live to be in their 20s in captivity. And I want you to know we have started closing the curtain early because that hawk came back again. But she is doing really well, and I want to thank you for that. I am so blessed in my life to be able to share this time with y'all and to count you as friends. And I just want to thank you again for that experience. So, I was thinking about what I could talk about today because, days are about the same. But I am truly thankful for the difference we are having in weather. We've gone from snow. Yesterday it was 80 degrees outside. And this morning it was that gloom that promises rain. And I thought about my own life. And sometimes there's a gloom that comes over it. But it's a gloom that promises the reign of Christ in my life. So what about you? What are you thankful for today? All right, let's fist this up and get started. And speaking of one of these bags that I've been telling you about, this is one that I had done. I have a little box that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I put all these little bags in it, and I look through them occasionally and am inspired. Now, these are gorgeous 10 millimeter barrel beads in the faceted black jet. Then I have, let's see, what am I picking out of here? Oh, yes, these are rondelles. They're faceted rondelles in a beautiful teal. Then I had a pearl that I don't know how it got in there. It must have been on the work table when I was cleaning it off. And these are some beautiful rhinestone rondelles. These are in the gold. Silver would work just as well. This is what I had left over. And these are just the prettiest teal blue in those arrow beads. They're gorgeous. I have some gold in the 3 millimeter spacer balls left over from a project. And these are little tiny 3 millimeter rondelles. Now I've separated all these out to see what I have to work with. And let's go ahead and take the Midnight Black in the soft flex. And this is a fine. I'm going to be using a number 1. And I said those were in a gold, but they're really in a silver. And I went ahead and pulled out 2 of my silver clamshells. And let's see, what else am I going to use for this? Go ahead and pour some of these number 1s out. Now we're going to be doing a fully beaded teardrop. At first I tried with having a floating, and I do have a floating for Valentine's coming up. But these beads were too heavy. And I needed the stability of seed beads. So even though you don't see them right now, I will be doing seed beads as well. So now I have put on one of these little 3mm spacer balls. And then let's see here. I am going with that silver and the 4mm rhinestone rondelles. And I just love these. Aren't they beautiful? Now, let's see. How do I want to do this? Let's try it this way. Because this is I guess we would call it a zip bag project. I have not put this out on my bead board to see how I want to do it. But I've decided to go with the rhinestone first or second. Let's see what I got here. All right, we're going to put indecision. All right, so what we're going to do once I have thought about this and got this all in the right place, I have pulled out these little 2mm spacer balls as well. So let's go ahead and put on our crimp. If I can quit chasing it around. And you know, one of the things you'll see me do in this is at some point I had teeny little silver seed beads on my mat, and I got some of them mixed in. So now I put that 2mm in the spacer ball, and it fits right into the V in that beautiful little arrow bead. And then I am going to go ahead and let's see here, and let's try a rhinestone rondelle and the 3mm spacer ball. You would not think there was that much difference in a 2mm and a 3mm, but there is. And I'm going to go ahead and add the rhinestone rondelle after that 3mm spacer ball. And then I'm going to add that beautiful large rhinestone rondelle. And this is in an 8. These rhinestone rondelles are 8s. Then the 3mm spacer ball. And then I'm going to add that 10mm barrel bead. It's probably a 10 by 6mm, but I did not measure the other length. Now, isn't that pretty? I just love that design. That is so pretty. Now, the beauty of these earrings that you build on beading wire is that it doesn't take a lot. And as I said, this will be a fully beaded because they just pulled the teardrop down too much whenever I did that. And I am building back again, so I added the 3mm, the rhinestone, and then that big rondelle and that gorgeous teal, another rhinestone, and look at that. Isn't that pretty? I love the way it just sets that off. But as I was saying, the beauty of building these little teardrop earrings is that if your beads are not too big, you can do a floating earring. And I do have one of those coming up at the end of the week for Valentine's Day. I made something special for myself and my daughter for Valentine's Day. And I don't want to put it out too early, but I want to put it out early enough that you can search in your own beads and make one of those floating earrings. But this is so dressy, and I just love it. I wore these earrings to church on Sunday, and I have to say these got the most compliments that I have ever gotten for a pair of earrings. Now, this is the floating style. If I was going to do this in a floating, this would be as far as I would go, and then I would do my crimping and put on the top. So let's go ahead and let's crimp this because I want these beads to stay. Oh, why have I got that out? I know why. Because I'm going to do something else after this, and I'd set that tool on my desk. Okay, this is the crimper. There's a large half circle in the back, and I put the crimp in that. Yes, I know it's only a single wire, and I could flatten it across, and I do show that in another video, but this one particularly, I wanted to make a round ball. Now, if you have done this correctly, when you pull on that, it's not going to go anywhere. And that is so if you're doing a floating earring, you can go ahead and close it up here, and that will stay. It won't run all over the place whenever you wear your earring. And I really like that. I'm a big believer in crimps. All right, I'm crimping the other side, just like that. I'm going to pull some of this out, clip this. I love to build on the spool. I'm not sure that it saves wire, but it makes me feel better. When I didn't build on the spool itself, I would run out of room a lot of times because I had miscalculated. Now this would be a floating earring, and I really love that. But when I got down to the finished product, I discovered that when it would hang, that weight of these big, beautiful beads would pull this wire down. If I had used a medium wire, it might not have, but I didn't. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to put this where I would like it to be. Then I put on my clamshell, putting in both. And then I am going to go ahead and put a crimp on, just like this. Okay, let's see if that works. And then I'm going to crimp it down. Now this time you have 2 wires going through that crimp, so it's very important that they do not cross over. Make sure your wires stay parallel, just like that. And make sure your sides of your earring are parallel before you crimp. Then go ahead and crimp this, and this time I am using my chain nose pliers because I want that crimp to be flat. And I crimp it across, and then I crimp on each side so the wire is completely encapsulated in that crimp. I hope that's the right word. And then I'm going to pull this up just like this. And then I am going to go ahead and close this up. Now I will go back, and I'm not sure I filmed it, but I will put just a dollop of super glue in it to make sure that that crimp stays right where I want it. Now, do you see how it is closing up on the top? It's very beautiful, but it is closing up on the top. So I've taken it apart, and I'm going to go ahead and put on beads on each side, and I'm putting on the same number of beads so that my teardrop will come together at the top. So, all right, now that we're ready, we're going to go ahead and put on this clamshell again. And this is a little tight because I did not restring this. And it will be easier when you make yours because you won't have cut your wire off before you do this. But I've got the, let's go ahead and put a crimp on. And so the clamshell and then the crimp, I'm bringing it down, and I have opened up that clamshell a lot. Don't open it flat. When you do that, it stresses the metal too much on these little clamshells, and about 7 out of every 10 times it'll break on you. So I am closing this flat with my chain nose pliers. I'm giving it a tug, and then I have closed up my clamshell. Now again, when this is done, I will go ahead and I will put on just a little dollop of super glue. You can use E6000. It really doesn't matter. I know a lot of people that don't do it at all, but since I cut the wire so short to go inside that clamshell, I am making sure that little crimp stays right where I want it. All right, again, I am checking for the second earring my beads to make sure they're going to be in the middle of the wire I've cut. I've gone ahead and cut the wire off. I'm putting the same number of 11 O's on this earring as I did on the other. And you know what? These 11 O's, if you have not worked with them, they are so versatile. They work wonderfully to tighten things up. They work beautifully to set off a bead that you want set off. And they are amazing for something like this where you need just that little extra strength to make the shape stay the way you want it. So once I get these on, we will go ahead and we will crimp this down. I'll be with you in just a moment. All right, we are back again. I have added that clamshell to the top of these earrings, and I'm going to take one of these crimps. And remember, this is a number 1 crimp from Beadalon. It's really the only crimp I use, so it would be hard for me to tell you. It's a very small crimp. But I bring it all the way down, making sure the wires are straight. And I'm going to go ahead, check this to make sure I have it correct. And then I'm going to mash across with my chain nose pliers because I don't want the little ball like I do in the part that shows. I want it to be flat and wide so it will sit across the hole in the back of this clamshell. It's kind of like when you tie a string to a stick and you put it across whatever that string is coming through because you want that stick to hold it in place. That's the image that always comes to mind for me. All right, so here I am. I'm really having a hard time with this one because I just can't quite get it in the right place here. And that's okay. What is the model? If at first you don't succeed, try again. Well, that's what I was doing. I was trying again. Now then, I've taken this is a gel super glue, and I'm going to put just a little dollop on both sides of that little indent in the clamshell. I'm in the little half circles. I'm putting a dot on both of them. I'm going to clip my wire relatively close, and then I'm going to go ahead and close it. And that's what I was telling you on the other one that I was going to do offline, but I thought I would do it here so you could see. Now then, make sure when you close these little clamshells that not only do they close, but that the little circles at the top line up. It's very easy for these little clamshells to get slightly askew, and then your jump ring will not fit in it. Okay, aren't those lovely? And see how beautiful they hold their shape when you put those seed beads on. Now I am using clip earrings because, as I said, these are for me, and I do not have pierced ears. But this would look beautiful on any of the clips, any of the earring wires that you would love to use. Now, this is what I'm checking. Remember when I told you make sure? Well, the other thing to make sure of is that one didn't get whoppy gaggled of the other going straight up and far out, because that makes the circles go too. Now, at first I thought, and I'm giving it a great try, that I could just put these earrings onto my clips. But that clip is really wide. Some clips are less wide, but this is really wide, and I finally said, yep, this is not going to work. So let's go ahead and close up the circle. And now this is my problem. I have to make sure that if I want them to face forward, that the loop on the jump ring and on the earring and the loop coming off of that earring are in the same plane. If they're not in the same plane, I have like two options. I can try to turn them or so that they're both in the same plane, because you want 2 horizontal and 1 perpendicular, or vertical, or 1 vertical, 2 vertical, and 1 horizontal. It doesn't matter what it is, but if you want to face it, if you want them to face forward, the loop on your piece and the loop on your ear wire have to be in the same plane if you're using a jump ring. So I've gone ahead and opened the jump ring. I hold it between 2 chain nose pliers, twist one side, open it, and I do the same thing for the and I do the same thing for the closing it. Boy, I got to watching what I was doing and I forgot how to talk. So what I was showing you is that with the jump ring, with this one, I've turned these so that my ear wires or my clips or ear wires are in that parallel with my ear ring. And then the jump ring is at a horizontal, and that will make these face forward. And this one is just giving me a little bit of trouble closing. Open it with 2 chain nose pliers, twist only one side. Close it with 2 chain nose pliers, twist only on one side. That way you won't weaken your jump rings so that they're less likely to spring open if you really get them closed. Now the other trick here is if you use the oval instead of the circular, the slit is on the side, and that also is less likely to open, because with a circular jump ring, you're pulling on either side. But with an oval, it's pulling at the top and the bottom, but your slit is on the side and it's not getting the same tension. All right, it's now time to move on to the 3-tier cuff, and I will be using cuff memory wire for this. I get mine on Amazon from Beadalon. I'm not sure if anybody else makes cuff, but that's what I use. All right, let's move on to the bracelet. But before we move on, would you take a moment to please like and leave a comment for this video? I really do appreciate that. And also, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, would you please subscribe? I put up shorts on the weekends. I try to do 2 videos during the week, and it will just let you know whenever I put something up. If you remember, once you subscribe, to click the notification button. And lastly, if you would please share this with friends and family, that would be amazing. I really do appreciate it. It helps a lot. Thank you so much. All right, let's move on to the cuff. So for this cuff, for some reason, the part where I showed you where I cut the cuff in the beginning of the bracelet, it said the film was corrupted. So this is the best 2 pictures I have of the cuff. I have taken my Beadalon cuff memory wire and I have cut it in the middle of that oval circle, just like it is cut on the oval jump rings. Now, I'm not making it overlap because I am going to join this as a cuff. So I just find the middle of the wire using my memory wire cutters. Then I just clip it right in the middle. And I clipped 3 of these. And in the part that got corrupted, I turned all of them. I will show you at the end how to turn the circle because that did not get corrupted. But what I do is I take my straight nose pliers and I go ahead at the tips and turn a circle over the outside of the bracelet. And it's important that you get consistency in placement and in turn, because we're going to join these at the end. Okay, so we're going to jump in to the second little section that wasn't corrupted, and I'll get pictures as we go along. So on this first bracelet, I have laid out all the beads that I'm going to use. We will use everything that we had in the earrings, but we are also using, that was in my little bag, but I didn't show you, but I showed you in the corrupted part. I have this 10 millimeter and a jet black English cut, and that's where my finger is pointing. To either side of that, I have these beautiful 8 millimeter crystal, I call them donuts. They're tube beads, and they're really beautiful. They have a slight AB flash to them. I think I had like 6 of them left from a project, and I just added it to this little baggie. And then also in the little bag was some faceted barrel beads in a 6 millimeter. And if I said the crystals were 6, I meant 8. So we have a 10 millimeter English cut. Then we have an 8 millimeter tube bead in that crystal AB flash, and we will be using some barrel beads. Everything else that we are using for these 3 bracelets was left over in my little bag. All right, so what I have done here is that I have started out with a 3 millimeter spacer ball. I have had 7 11-0 seed beads, then 2 of the spacer balls, 7, and a spacer ball. And here's a good picture on my mat of what was left in my little zip bag right there in the top kind of right hand corner, and that is the English cut and the barrel beads and the tube beads that I had pulled out for this bracelet. All right, and again, I apologize that I had a corrupted video, but these were all the beads I had, and once it was done, it was done. So for this first bracelet, again, we started out with a spacer ball, and this is on the left-hand side of your screen, down at the bottom, holding with my right thumb and pointer. So we started out with the spacer ball, then we have 7 of the black 11-0 seed beads, 2 spacer balls, 7 of the 11-0 seed beads, then again, 2 spacer balls, that crystal tube bead, a spacer ball, the English cut, a spacer ball, the tube bead, 2 spacer balls, and this time I went with 3 of the 11-0s, and that is because if you look at the bottom where I'm holding it with my right thumb and pointer, that is the middle of the bracelet, and if you go straight up from there, you will see that large 10 millimeter barrel bead. It's the same barrel beads that we used in the earrings. I want that barrel bead to end there, and the only place I have to adjust it is in the seed beads. So I've adjusted down to 3. If you're making your own with your own beads, because this is a great project, that cuff, it's gorgeous, it's easy to wear, it's amazing. You're going to have to adjust your beads accordingly. So give yourself some grace and put your beads on and take your beads off and put your beads on and take your beads off until you get it where your center bead is right over the center back. So next, I have put on, after those 3, I've put on a 3 millimeter spacer ball, and then that beautiful little teal arrow, then a 2 millimeter spacer ball, then using the same rondelles that we used in the earrings, we're putting on a rhinestone rondelle, your teal faceted rondelle, a rhinestone rondelle, your barrel bead, a rhinestone rondelle, a faceted teal rondelle, another rhinestone rondelle, and then we are ending in that arrow bead. It's hard to see because it's blending in with what's on my bead mat, but it's an arrow bead. And I have put another 2 millimeter before I put it on, and I'm putting a 3 millimeter on after I put it on. Now, I didn't have to put as many of the spacer balls because for this piece, it wasn't as hard a bend. I put spacer balls on to make sure that the beads have the space to turn into that teardrop or into a ring if you're doing memory wire rings. So that's what I use them for, and I didn't have to use as many. Now then, we're going to build back down, and we will have the spacer ball, the 3 11-0s, 2 spacer balls, the tube, a spacer ball, the English, a spacer ball, the tube, a spacer ball, then 7 of the 11-0s. But when I got here, on each bracelet, one side was slightly shorter. Remember, I said if you're going to do adjusting, do the adjusting in your 11-0s. You want the top of the bracelet to be consistent. You want the sides of the bracelet to be consistent. But when you get to the bottom of this bracelet, adjust in those 11-0s. If you have 2 spacer balls on one side, make sure you put 2 spacer balls on the other side, even if you have to take 1 or 2 11-0s off of your bottom of your bracelet. And that is how I have done the first bracelet. So let's pick up, and I hope nothing else is corrupted. All right, I just think that is so pretty. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn this circle. I'm still messing with trying to decide how many I need. I want to end in a spacer ball because I started with a spacer ball. Now I have a little tip right there. I'm going to take my straight nose pliers just like that, and I'm going to go ahead and hold it at the bottom and right at the tip and turn this into itself over the top, just like I did for the first one. See, I told you it would be turned. I just had a corrupted piece of film. So once I get that done, I am making sure that is closed off. You do not want to mash these flat like you do for a memory wire because we will be joining them. Isn't that beautiful? I just love that piece. All right, we'll set that down. And looky here, we have a turn. So what I do is I'm going to take the straight nose pliers, and we're going to go ahead and turn that over itself at the tip. I'm making sure with the chain nose that it closes completely. And this is the pattern I'm going to use for the second cuff. I kind of put everything I'm going to use for each one down here, and then I space it out the way I want it to be used. Now then, what I'm looking at, and I will be looking at as I go, is how do I want this to lay? Now, one of the things that I will do is I will change the seed beads at the back. Again, I always start with a 3 millimeter spacer ball. I do this because if by chance I don't have that closed as tight as I want on that circle, that spacer ball will not go into that circle. And so it's just a good precaution. I used to use seed beads, and then, after I'd worn them for a while, one day I'd look and it had a gap. And it had a gap because the circle had opened and the seed beads had worked their way in. Now this time I am only doing 5 of the seed beads, and I'm using the 2 spacer balls. Then I'm going to put on that beautiful turquoise arrow and another of the spacer balls. Bring this right in there like that. And then I am putting on one of the barrel beads that was in the sack, and then another spacer ball, then my rhinestone rondelle, a spacer ball. And I use rhinestone rondelles a lot when I'm using smaller beads because it keeps it gives me a little space, and those spacer beads go right into those rhinestone rondelles and let it sit just a little straighter. And so I put that on, and now I'm checking to see where that's going to lay with the other bracelet. And if you'll notice, when I put them together, the seed beads are going to let that come together like a cuff. So once I have done that, I've got my rhinestone rondelle on. I'm going to put another spacer ball and the barrel bead. Oh, let's get this done here. And then another spacer ball, and then the arrow. Now, I tried the arrow both ways. I like it when it's moving away from the component so that V shape is on the outside, is on the inside, and the point is on the outside. Okay, that's the first one for that. And I just think it's lovely. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm looking to see how much space I need to get to the top. Remember, this is going to be a very small center, whereas the other one was very long and drawn out. So I have put my spacer ball on. You can see it at the bottom. And now I'm playing with how many beads do I want on there. What do I want to go on there? I think I'm going to go ahead and put a second spacer ball just like that. And then, because I had two on the other side, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start counting out my beads. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, and then another spacer ball. I have to hit that hole. You know, when you wear bifocals, sometimes I even have to have magnifying glasses to see these over my bifocals. It's tough when the eyes go. All right, so again, I was checking to see where the middle was. And I'm going to put on another of these 11-O's. I'm trying to mimic. And then I'm going to put on that spacer ball, and then I'm going to check the middle again and see if we have got to the middle yet. And it looks like with this, we are almost at the middle. So let's see here. What do I want to do? So I have gone ahead and I have put on the arrow after I measured again. And then I have put on a spacer ball. I put on the rhinestone rondelle. And then I'm going to put on the faceted teal rondelle. And these have spacer balls in them. And I'll show you that I'm looking. Is that in the middle yet? Have I got it in the middle? Am I going to have to take it off and try again? Let's see here. Yes, what I did was take off the spacer ball because it made it too far over. Then another rhinestone, and now the spacer ball. And then I should be putting on one of these beautiful arrow beads. Remember, I am doing mine where the inside V points in and the point points out. And if you look, I have got this right over the top, and I'm going to repeat it and finish this one. And that is what it looks like. See, they look really pretty together. I put them on between each one because I want to see how they're going to lay. Now with this one, I am turning the circle again at the top. And I'm going to take my chain nose pliers, going to mash that down just like that. See here if I got this going. Oop, hit the camera. I do that a lot. All right. And once I have got that started, again with my 3mm, just like that. And you can see what my final bracelet is going to be down in my on my beading tray. Now this is the thing. Again, we're going to adjust in the 11-O's. I don't want any of the 11-O's to have the same count at the bottom of the bracelet because I want to stagger what's happening around the bracelet. So this time I have only put on 3. It's a spacer ball, 3 11-ohs, and 2 spacer balls. And then I'm going to do the same thing right here with 3 of the 11-ohs, just like that. Going to bring it down and look and see where it seems to be. And then I'm going to add my a second spacer ball. I think this is a second. No, this is just the single. And now I'm going to start my beads. That's the barrel bead that I told you about. And then a spacer ball. And then a rhinestone rondelle. And then we have these little bumpy beads. Oh, and you can't see it because my hand's out, but there it is. It has little bumps all over it. I just love it. It came in a set, I think, from Jesse James, and I had 2 left. Then we're doing a rhinestone rondelle. And let's see, a spacer ball. And then we're going to go ahead and finish up with a barrel bead. And that's what I'm saying. Get you some little sacks. I get mine at Hobby Lobby. I've gotten them from Amazon. And as you work on projects, things that you love the color combination, just put your extras in there with all the color combinations and what you've used. And as you work, if you leave them in a little box, you can add to it as you do different projects. And then you have this beautiful color palette that you can use for your own jewelry design. It's your own color palette with beads that you have loved. And I think it is an amazing way to go. Now I've put 3 more on. I've added 2 of the 3mm, and then I'm going to put 3 more on, and then I'm going to check and see how close I am to the top of this bracelet. And I think I am pretty close. Alrighty. So we're going to add another of the 3mm. And then we're going to add the arrow. And again, I'm pointing it outward. To point it outward, point it towards the last bead you've put in. Then I'm going to go ahead and put on, whoops, dropped it, another spacer ball to go into the arrow. And this time I have a barrel bead. And let's see here. I think I'm going to try another spacer ball and a rondelle. Rhinestone rondelle, that faceted glass teal rondelle, another rhinestone rondelle, then I'm going to need a barrel bead, and then, a spacer ball, and then the barrel bead, and end with a barrel bead. And then I am going to copy this all the way down till I get finished and turn the end. So if you notice, the main bead is right over the center. That's what you want to check. And that's true even if you're doing the round memory wire. And these are the 3 bracelets finished. So you say, how are you going to close these, join these? Well, I use the largest of my oval jump rings. I put on the first one. And then I put on the second one, which is really the first one we made because it's the most heavily beaded. And then I put on the last one. And you want to make sure they're not crossing each other. I'm going to go ahead and twist one side and close this big, pretty jump ring. Now you can add a closure to this, but I have never found that I needed it. So I will not be putting a closure on it. So again, open up that big, beautiful oval jump ring. And I'm making sure these are not twisted. I'm holding them straight. Oh, I hope I don't hide the jump ring when I'm holding them straight. Then I'm going to put on the first one again. And then the second one, which is the most beaded, and then the third one. And I'm making sure as they're hanging just like that, nothing is twisted. And then I'm going to close it up just like that. I like these ovals because they will lay flat on your wrist right up against where you join them. You can make them go out like that if you want to put a closure on it, but they naturally want to just lay flat where you have joined them. And I think that's gorgeous. Now, isn't that pretty? I just love this. Yeah, I don't like that at all. So I lay them flat. And if you notice, I just mashed it down. Now, as they loosen up and get used to being together, you ever loosen up and get used to being together, they lay flatter or closer together. Now, these are the earrings that we made. Aren't those lovely? I just love these. For a little stash of beads I've been collecting for a year, all these little sacks, this is awesome. What an awesome piece. All right. And let's go ahead and let's move on. Isn't that pretty? Let's move on to the cuff itself. And this is that beautiful cuff. It is so pretty. I just love it. Look at that shine. Oop, I almost tossed it off the mat. And look how all that goes together. I highly encourage you to get you some little sacks and dig around in your stash and put some things together that when you need inspiration, that color palette will inspire you. Isn't that pretty? I just love the way it is. Let me show you some pictures. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have had so much fun working with this mishmash of beads, and I just really do encourage you to get you some little sacks or whatever you like. There's plenty of little things you can put things in, and then make your color palettes as you go. If you don't have any, go into your stash and mix and mash different shapes, different beads until you come up with a color palette that is inspiring to you. Until we meet next time, God bless you, God keep you safe, God be with your family, and I hope you have an amazing beading adventure of your own. Kathryn, Handmade by Circle Art Designs. God bless y'all.